Okay, so I'm about ready to start a game of Fleet, and what we've got here, a marker for the first player. Now, I always do this, and I'm going to explain it because people watching this may not be used to my little oddities, but I always play counterclockwise, and this is also going to rotate counterclockwise. I have to check the rules, make sure they go in the same direction. Let's take a look at what we have on the board, because we know we know what's in the hands. Those are all preset. We've got all the cubes out here. Now, one thing I didn't mention in my intro, in less number of players, there's less cubes on the board. So in 3 players, there's only 75. There's 100 here. And in 2 players, there's only 50. And by the way, it worked kind of fun in 2. Which I'll probably hit in my review, but some people maybe get bored of me by then. Let's take a look at the licenses. First one is the processing vessel. Now this is an important license. This is the way you turn cubes into money. Now, there's no other way to do it, and this may go for a bit of a premium because it is special. It's got a minimum cost of 5. It's only worth 3 victory points. That's about the same as the other 5s. The victory point bonus one is the cod, and it gives you the ability to turn cards in. Let's take a look at the lobster. We have 2 lobsters, so they may be less interesting, but if somebody wants a lobster, they can probably get it for minimum cost. What does this do? Well, this gives you a draw bonus at the end of the turn, okay? And you can also hire 2 captains each round, which means you can crew 2 ships. That doesn't help too much if you can't launch 2 ships, but maybe it's important in some cases. Okay, and what's the effect? Well, if you have 1 license, 1 to 3 captains gives you an extra draw. And that, I believe, is just an extra card drawn. Let me see how this is pictured. Yeah, an extra card drawn, it doesn't change the amount you discard. Whereas, if you have 4 more, you get 2 extra card draws, 4 more captains. But as you get more licenses in the lobster, well, the amount of cards that you get as a bonus increases. So if you go up to 2 licenses or more, you see it only takes 3 to get you up to the 2 cards. And if you get 7 ships captained out there, you get 3 extra cards. And we have another lobster there, and we have a cod. Now, what's with the cod? If you launch a ship, you draw a card. Now, this is per license. So this gives you 2 advantages. One is, whenever you launch ships, you're going to get additional cards. And the more licenses you have of this type, the more cards you get per launch, and it gives you a chance to launch more than 1 ship. You launch 2 ships per turn. So if you get the cod and the lobster, not that anybody can do that right away, you can only buy 1 license per turn, but if you get them both, you can then launch 2 ships and put out 2 captains. Great. How do I handle bidding in a game like this? Well, I do a lot of it with luck. I really do. I try to determine what the players are going to do, and I'm going to be rolling dice, and I don't really like to stand around doing that on video very much because it's not interesting. I'm just rotating around. I know some people have asked me questions, but for example, this guy would say, I'm most interested in the processing vessel. How do I mark that? What do I want? Yeah, how high am I willing to go? I gotta look at my cards. I know what they are supposedly, but I gotta look at them. So I got this processing vessel. Well, I'm gonna want to launch one if I've got that. And there's $5 if I launch it. I can certainly pay 5. To launch this ship is going to cost me 2 more bucks. There's that. 6 is the most I can bid. Let's go with a 6 bid. And then the question is, and is this the best thing? I don't know. I like it. I'm going to make my first player make that choice. Now the question is, does anybody want to overbid him and not get a ship down? Because that's what it costs. Everybody's got the same starting hand. So the chance of that is low. Here's how I'll do it. If I get a 1, I'll think about it on any given person. So this is the second person. Remember, I go counterclockwise. No. Third person. He's interested. Odd, he'll go up another $1 to 7. And he is. He's up to $7. That puts it to this guy. Now this guy, you know, he's not interested. Does he want to go to 8? Probably not. No. So it's going to go $7 here. The processing license goes here, and then I'll figure out how to pay for it. I'll come back in a moment to show you what I do, what the rest of the bidding falls out as. But I wanted to show people a little bit of the mechanism because I use this kind of thinking and bidding in a lot of my solo games. When I'm doing things like 18xx, the initial bidding round and stuff like that, it's often a lot of die rolling and just making up odds as I go. So after the first player bought his processing vessel, and this is what he's paying for it, and this is kind of interesting, tuna. Tuna give you 3 gold, but they're not worth a lot. They're ships that are only worth a victory point. Of course, they're cheap ships, but there's kind of this feeling of, well, I better spend my tuna. Likewise, the second player went for the cod. Now, buying the cod for $4 is great. Is it worth the extra buck for that extra victory point? Well, the assumption is the lobster with its extra card draws is a better deal here. You get cards are worth money. The cod just allows you this launching capability. Of course, it does give you cards for launching, and you're probably going to be launching. So the other 2 players then bought lobsters at minimum price. It makes no sense to bid them up when there's only 2 players and two licenses and they're the same. At this point, all this money gets piled away here in kind of a pool. It's a mess so that you never draw from it, but it's face down because people aren't allowed to look at it. Now where do we go? Well, the first thing we do is we draw new licenses. Another processing vessel, a tuna. Tuna's bonus, and this is what my wife started out with last game, is that it gives you a draw bonus in the cards. Now, that's kind of like this captain bonus, but I don't remember when the captain bonus takes place. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to look in the rules for these just to make sure I understand them correctly. So the lobster bonus, at the end of the launch, boats and hire captains, that's when this is fired off. It's the captain's bonus once you put them out. The tuna licenses during the draw phase, one of them allows you to draw 2 cards and keep 2. Now that's kind of weird. The way this should be, so the base would be drawn this way with this and this little diagonal. And unfortunately, they don't really, make that clear on here. It's written out instead of using the symbology, so it's not obvious to figure it out from the symbols alone. But if you look at this, you can say, well, okay, here I draw 3 cards and I discard 1. So the bonus with the tuna is I get to keep an extra card. I don't have to discard a card. And as I get more licenses, that'll go up. Let's take a look at some more. Shrimps. Oh, I don't know about them. So what does this have? An auction launch bonus. Let's see what that works out as. And I don't think I saw shrimp in the game at all when I played. I seem to have skipped them over. Their bonus is a discount on all transactions. That includes when you buy boats, when you buy licenses, whatever you're doing, you get a bonus. So whenever you auction or launch a boat, you get, with 1 license, $1 off. Now that's a gift that just keeps on giving, but then again, so are the card gifts. So it's hard to tell which are better. And we got another shrimp. This helps you decide what you're going to do in a turn, where you need to put your money, etc. Early on, probably not too big a deal, although you may want to withhold a launch based on, hey, I want that. Okay, so like that processing vessel, we're seeing that went for a premium, cost him his launch this turn. Someone else might be willing to take that same jump because launching without a processing vessel isn't all that valuable, although you can get a little quicker on the boat, on the fish crates that way. Okay, I got kind of pulled away to sort the thumbs on my list of requests just to give me a feel, and ended up there. Okay, so this guy can launch one ship. He doesn't have any bonus that allows him to do more than that, and he wants to get a lobster boat out if he can. That's going to cost him $2, and he's got to use cash. He'd like to keep the processing boat, but getting rid of 2 cards is a hard choice. It's not like these can be discarded at the end of the turn in replacement if you got 2 good draws. It doesn't work that way. But the advantage is you've got an extra card for a captain if you do this. And let's say he paid with these 2. This would have to be his captain. So he's going to pay with the processing vessel to launch that ship. And I believe all launches happen before. No. One player gets to go. Yeah. So now he has to choose between the cod and the king crab. He's going to drop the king crab on here because it produces less. And that has given him a lobster boat. Now, his captain bonus is going to be a draw of a card. And I'm just going to take care of that now. I'm not sure whether it doesn't really matter when it happens, but I'd like to just handle the whole phase across the board. Okay. So now we go to this guy, and he would like to launch his cod boat. Well, cod boats cost 2. He'd like to hold on to this. He's got shrimp and lobster. He'll put... Well, first of all, he launched a ship. Well, he's got to pay for it. So he'll pay for it with a lobster. And now he gets an extra card. And now he's got a handful. He'd like to captain that. King crab seems like a good thing to captain it with, because it does that. Now he could have launched another cod boat if he had one because of the bonus, but he doesn't. So it doesn't really help him. And it doesn't matter really what the boats are as long as you can launch them. Let's go to the third guy. He's got a processing vessel now. If I'm correct, he doesn't have enough money to launch it and put a captain on. Any reason to launch it without a captain? Not that I can think of. So he's going to hold his cards because that gives him more options next turn. And that's the price he pays for going up to $7 on that. And then this guy with his lobster boat, well, he'd like to launch. He has lobsters, so he wants to get captains into play. For $2, again, same choice. The processing vessel goes, and... well, the king crab is more expensive. Doesn't really make much difference, but he'll put a captain into play. Now that he has a captain into play, he gets an extra card. Okay. Now we get to fish. Well, everybody who has a captain boat gets a cube on the boat. And that's this guy's penalty. Among others, perhaps. Alright. Now there's processing. Well, the only person who can process is the guy with the processing license. He can't do that. We'll show that in the next turn when somebody actually has captain boats. If he had bought the processing ship, if he had bought it for 6 or less, he'd have had enough cards to have it out there. It would fish a cube, and then he could dump the cube onto here, where he could trade it in for cards, or use it as cash as needed. And now we're at the draw phase, and everybody's going to draw, and I'll start with the first player, 2 cards and choose one to keep. Now, with these 2, king crab isn't terribly useful right now. Tuna definitely is, so he's just going to throw that away, and nobody knows that he had it. I'll go through the rest of them. I'll be loading this up, so I'm not going to come back on this. I'll just do this on my own. And then we'll start the next turn. This will shift this way, and we'll be starting.